What's up, losers? Another day, another video. More r/fatlogic. More giggles. I feel like we're developing a nice little routine. I've got some great posts for you today. So without any further delay, let's get into it.
Fitness culture is not about health. It is about the aesthetic of health. Fitness culture is about upholding thinness on gym bodies. It is not about individual health. Fitness culture is a safe space for fatphobia, anti-fatness, and fat violence. The aesthetic of health is thinness, gym bodies, flat tummies. It's not based on the actual health of your body. It's not based on well-being. Fitness culture hates fatness, hates fat people.
How do you go from saying that fitness culture is about pursuing a thin aesthetic, to calling fitness culture a safe space for fat phobia, anti-fatness, and fat violence? That doesn't follow at all, haha. Surely people are allowed to pursue whatever aesthetic they want. Thin people exercising because they like to look thin isn't an attack on fat people. You would only interpret it that way if you were jealous because they were attaining a physique that you felt unable to. To employ an analogy here, imagine that I like dressing to meet a certain aesthetic. Let's say, I like wearing bright, cheerful colors. Does that mean that I hate people who wear black, or want to perpetrate violence against them? No, it doesn't. Furthermore, have you considered that the reason people associate thinness with health is because in general, thin people are likely to be healthier than fat people? Yes, there might be some thin people who are unhealthy, and some fat people who are more or less healthy. But broad aesthetic conventions obviously can't account for health on a case-by-case basis. It's not some fat-phobic conspiracy. And, once again I reiterate, if you don't like the thin aesthetic, and think it's stupid, then you don't have to pursue it. Chill out. This one is a comment section, with multiple people replying to a comment. So if you're just listening to the video, you might want to look at the screenshots to keep track of the conversation. I will try to differentiate by using different voices for each person.
I am 195 pounds, and consider myself to be quite healthy, but at 5'4", I am considered obese, based on the current BMI guidelines. Per the CDC, I did the BMI calculator thing, and it said that at my height, I am supposed to be within the 108 to 145 pounds range. If I weighed somewhere within that range, I would likely develop more health issues than in my current physical state.
How do you know that?
How do I know what?
BMI is such a joke. It's always best to talk with a trusted medical professional. But if they agree that you're living a healthy lifestyle at your current weight, awesome. If not, maybe there's changes to make. But BMI is too extreme, in my opinion.
No, you wouldn't. You would be fine.
Why would you develop more health issues?
I work in healthcare, and have seen a lot of patients who have a similar build to myself. I understand that lifestyle choices and genetics can play an important factor in that. But from my interactions with them, and examining my own health and lifestyle choices, so that's how I have come to that conclusion of it being a possibility. I'm sure I would be fine, just examining my own health, and thinking of patients I've seen and treated over the years. They really need to revamp and restructure the BMI guidelines, because it can cause some people to resort to extreme measures to achieve the ideal weight and size they're supposed to be.
That makes no sense, lol. You see patients with a similar build to yourself, and think losing weight would cause health issues. Are the patients with the similar builds as yourself not patients with health issues? Are there not people with health issues at every size? I was 195 at 5'4" last year, and am now at 157. Had no health issues before/after, but the functionality of my body has improved. The method used to do it is what's most important in not developing health issues. If I weighed somewhere within that range, I would likely develop more health issues than in my current state. No, you wouldn't. That's just deflection, because you don't want to accept that you are massively over the weight your body could best handle at your height.
Does anyone not see this as a total ass pull? The idea that losing weight, to go from an obese BMI to a normal one, is going to make your overall health worse, is totally ludicrous, and clearly the other commenters here know that too. That story about the patients that this person has seen couldn't be much less convincing. Could it? She couldn't even produce a singular anecdote LMAO, just a vague sense that it might be the case. From the generalized experience. Just like, give me a break. I honestly wish people could just acknowledge that obesity is unhealthy, but say that they are willing to put up with the health consequences regardless. I would have no problem with that. People are free to live their lives however they want. It's the deflection, misinformation, and constant complaining that really gets to me. So, yeah, please stop. And as for the person who said that trying to get into the normal BMI range is too extreme. What? No. In what universe is that extreme? The normal weight band is very broad and forgiving. It's not extreme in the slightest. To aspire to fall within it. It just goes to show how normalized obesity has become, that people could actually think that achieving a normal BMI requires some kind of extreme starvation diet. This one is a conversation on Tumblr, and it's a bit of a doozy, haha.
Do you consider it fatphobic not to allow fat guys to join the military/police/firemen?
Googles. The military does have a BMI requirement. It makes sense that there be requirements for health and fitness. And it might happen that most people who meet those requirements have a BMI in the normal range. But I don't think it's good to have a BMI requirement. Similarly, it's fine if most firefighters happen to be male. But it would be bad to ban women from firefighting. The weirdness of having a BMI requirement, rather than a body fat requirement, given, that muscle weighs more than fat, is making me wonder whether there's some logical reason to care about BMI, which I don't know about.
Heavy people are slower, even if it's mostly muscle. In emergency situations, that's more relevant.
Even then, have it be a 100 meters dash requirement, and cut straight to the issue you care about.
Yeah, it seems like they could just measure the things they care about, and skip the BMI altogether.
This is the kind of BS I've been talking about. Said that a lot lately. Do you consider it fatphobic not to allow fat guys to join the military? Why ask if it is fatphobic? Why not ask if it is morally wrong? If you care about ethics, or strategically a poor choice, if you care about military readiness, like the endless stupid arguments over cultural appropriation, this is trying to tease out some distinction between discrimination based on body size/shape, that is okay, and discrimination that is forbidden. Why? You can identify a pattern in society and label it fat phobia for convenience. But if you start with the idea of fat phobia, and then start running around, trying to see what you can label with it, that's just pointless.
I don't necessarily see the distinction. If we're identifying a pattern, and labeling it fatphobia, what's the issue with trying to clarify the edge of the pattern? And trying to figure out where it does, and does not, apply?
The only problem is that this kind of categorization has proven to be very time-consuming and ineffective in practice, and tends to skirt the central issue that actually matters. It's almost always better to explode the term. Is fat phobia the memeplex that devalues and degrades fat people to blame for the physical requirements in the military? That would suggest exploring when these memes came to power, and looking at the history of military physique standards, and seeing if there is any linkage. And it is entirely free of moral judgment. But you could just as well ask, are the current military physique requirements unethical? Or, if you only care about consequences, are the current military physique requirements counterproductive? So we have questions of ethics, efficiency, and cultural history. But it's very easy to lump these together. Is this racist? Yes or no, and end up in a tangled mess.
Okay, so, it's a little embarrassing to admit this to you guys, but I had no idea what a memeplex was. I guess I'm not as smart as the poster here, haha. According to Wikipedia, memeplexes are groups of memes that are often found present in the same individual. And a meme is an idea, behavior, or style that spreads by means of imitation from person to person. So what this person is saying, admittedly, in an overly complicated way, is that we shouldn't focus on whether military BMI requirements are derived from fat phobia, but whether these requirements are good, in terms of ethics and efficiency. I think that this is a little pedantic, as I think these considerations are already baked into the assessment of whether or not something is fat phobic. But, ultimately I agree, that there are more important concerns at play here, than how this kind of exclusion might make fat people feel. The likely reason for using a BMI test, rather than things like a 100-meter dash, is that BMI is easier to administer, and thus uses fewer resources in its implementation. Like, in theory it might be nice to give obese people the opportunity to prove themselves in a physical fitness test. But if you want to carry out these tests, you will have to pay people to preside over them. And in all likelihood, the vast majority of these people will fail, because there is no denying that overweight and obese people do not perform as well physically as those in the normal BMI band. So from the military's perspective, this is a suboptimal use of resources. It would be better to eliminate these people based on BMI, because all you have to do is get them to step on a scale, and most obese people will know not to apply in the first place. As dispiriting as it might be for you personally, the military is primarily concerned with making sure that it brings in fit and able-bodied people, and with minimizing its resource wastage in this process. So if you want to join the military, maybe you will just have to lose weight. Sorry. As a side note, I think this is actually a pretty illuminating example of how BMI is supposed to be used. No, BMI can't give you a 100% appraisal of your individual health. But when applied on a large scale, like to military recruits, or, perhaps more crucially, entire populations, it does provide a pretty good guide for who is likely to be more physically healthy and fit.
Just a reminder that anti-fat acceptance is inherently part of fascist ideology. The toxic demonization of obese people, who want to be treated with equity, is tied to bullying by homophobic, transphobic, and racist right-wingers. Want proof? Look on how the right criminalized drugs since the 1970s. Not every user was a homeless criminal druggie. Most were in fact ordinary people, including celebrities. But the right didn't care about. They are about control and suppression of individuality. The war on drugs was nothing short but propaganda used to persecute innocent people, just like the right always does. There is a difference between criticism of a progressive movement and flat-out hatred. If you're against fat acceptance, you're a fascist. No exceptions.
I think my IQ just dropped a few points. This is honestly brain dead. They literally never explain the relevance of the drug war to their point about fat acceptance. Like, yeah, the drug war is bad. Homophobia is bad. Transphobia is bad. Racism is bad. Hardcore right-wingers are bad. None of this means that I have to accept your fat acceptance BS though, haha. Also, how can you say that there is a difference between criticism of a progressive movement and flat-out hatred when you label literally any criticism of fat acceptance as fat-phobic hatred? It makes no sense. Like, am I missing something, guys? What kind of FA criticism are these fat activists actually okay with? I have never seen any attempt by the movement to accept criticism or engage with criticism in good faith. Give me a break. Okay guys, that's all I've got for you today. It was a ride, as always. I know this was a bit of a long one, and a bit messy with the multiple comment posts. So thanks for bearing with me. Anyway, what do you think? Do I need to read up more on the memeplex? Should the military be more accommodating of fat people? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll make you drop and give me 20. Ha ha. Catch you later.